Where do you think, from the perspective of the 48 Laws of Power, Donald Trump went wrong? And what did he do right? Like, what was right, what was wrong?
He is the absolute master of anybody throughout history of one law. I can't even begin to say there's nobody who can compare to him. The one law is court attention at all cost. It was the law that was inspired by P.T. Barnum. That was the icon of it was. And P.T. Barnum said, there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? If the worst thing in life is that people ignore you, that they're not talking about you. So even if they're talking about it and they hate you, it's fine because they're talking about you. So I remember I was traveling around the world before COVID, before I had my stroke in like 2016, 2017, all around the world. Everybody was talking about Donald Trump. You go to like Singapore, you go out in some village in Europe somewhere, way out in nowhere, and people were obsessed with Donald Trump. The amount of oxygen and media attention this guy sucked up is insane. And he was a master. He is a master at it.
What was this? Is there something, can you dig deeper, that what he was doing to be a master?
He was always creating controversy. He knew that if people weren't, the worst feeling for him, and he wasn't in control of it, which is the bad part, but if people weren't talking about him, he had this kind of empty feeling, right? So he knew at certain moments he had to say something so outrageous and so shamefaced and bold that the people on the left would go, oh my God, can you believe it? And the people in his base would go, wow, he got away with saying that. But he had to push the button every couple of weeks. He couldn't let that go down. And he know if people were talking about somebody else, like Biden or whomever, he purposely disrupted that train of thought by saying something ridiculous. I mean, examples don't come readily to mind. We all lived through it, so we know that.
Yeah.
He was absolutely brilliant at it. But Donald Trump is not in control of himself. He's brilliant at that, but he is the worst strategist of any leader I have ever witnessed in my life. And I've written books on strategy. My third book's The 33 Strategies of War, right? It's something that I pride myself on, and I do a lot of consulting.
Give me an example of the fundamental errors that he makes as a leader.
Well, he doesn't think 2 moves in advance, right? He's not able to play the long game. So, a classic example was, see if I can get it right, but it was dealing with North Korea and China, and he was trying to, I don't know if I can remember it straight. The idea is basically, if your goal in the end is to kind of control Kim Jong-un, right, and make a deal with him of some sort, you're going to need China to help you, right? And so, but if you signal to China that you're desperate for their help, they're going to feel like they have all of the power and they're going to control the dynamic. And so he set it up so that it has something to do with, he broke that trade agreement with those other countries in Asia. I forget the name of it, with Japan and Korea, etc. There was a trade agreement, right, that was supposed to serve as a counterpoise to China, right? But by breaking up that agreement, he lost all leverage with China, because now China felt like, wow, we can get away with anything now, right? And so he doesn't understand leverage. He doesn't know how to play several moves in advance. So if you alienate, mostly in the world, in foreign affairs, if you alienate all the countries in Europe by your kind of insulting the leaders, etc., and there arrives a moment where you need their help, you need their unity, for example, on Iran, if he wants to get them to sign on board with a deal, to break up Obama's deal, he needs allies. But he'd so alienated so many different people, he's incapable of thinking on that chessboard, if I move the queen here, sure, I'm going to lose. No, I better wait and move it here instead.
I think what you're saying is, like, he had this sort of myopic America first sort of idea that America first is a good philosophy, but America first might mean being a bit more strategic by sometimes sacrificing what might seem to be a worse deal for America in the short term, but it would allow you to accomplish something else in the longer term. Is that what you're saying, basically?
Very much so. And the other thing is, he's always trying to be aggressive and always trying to push himself forward and take the maneuver that's going to get the most attention, etc. But it's not often the wisest move. Sometimes you want to step back. Sometimes you want to not signal to the world exactly what you're going to do. He would always foreshadow exactly what his next move was, as opposed to that unpredictability that he knows how to use sometimes.
Do you think there's a better version of Donald Trump out there that someone else is going to come along and tap into?
Well, that would be scary. But if there was a Donald Trump who understood strategy, if I was like able to help him, or the other people who are better than I am, that would be scary, because somebody like that could get much more power. You know, imagine Donald Trump at the beginning of his term. If he said, all right, I have my base, they love me, but I'm going to try and appeal to some people in the center, right? I'm going to pretend that I'm this very patriotic American, and I want to unite this country to some degree. And I'm going to take policies. I can always get my base back with me, right? But I'm going to take a few steps in the very beginning of my presidency. They're going to win over some of those people in the center who may not have them. He would have been absolutely unstoppable, right? Because he had all the ingredients working for him. He arrived at a moment where people were tired of politicians, where they wanted somebody from the outside, but he doesn't know how to widen his base. One of the laws of power is called work on the hearts and minds of other people. And the idea is power is a numbers game. You need as many allies as possible, right? You can't just simply survive on a narrowing base. It's eventually going to come back and bite you. You need to expand your base. You need to expand your audience. You need to be, appealing to more people. Your product has to sell to wider and wider and wider. He doesn't understand that. He's always like shrinking. You're going to get down to the hardest core.
See, I think this what you're saying is true, but there was also, I don't know if you ever really, the press was so all over. It was like it's really unfortunate in the sense that I think that there. I don't know if there's anything he could have done that would have had the press. Maybe he brought it on himself, but it seemed like they were just out to get him from the beginning.
No, I don't agree. I'm sorry, but he could have diffused that right away. It came to him. He was like that when he ran for office. He was a polarizer. Fine, it brought him to power. But people are very forgiving. In the American public, we're very forgiving. We don't have long attention spans. And yes, he would have never won over the people at MSNBC, okay, et cetera. I understand.
Right. But if he'd come...
if he'd come out and softened it a little bit, been a little bit more seductive, a little more of the soft sell, bring in a bit. And he had some of that with the working class. He talked on and on about infrastructure. If he had emphasized, instead of the wall and that kind of divisive thing, if he'd said, what we're going to focus our attention of, and I know Peter Thiel, he's somebody I've had lunch with, etc. That was his, because he supported Trump.
Right.
Was focus on infrastructure. The country is falling apart. Put your money and your attention to saying, we're going to rebuild America. We're going to make this the country that builds things. We're going to really bring back jobs. Right? We're going to repair all the bridges and roads in this country. We're going to put money and we're going to invest in that. There would have been people who would have never warmed up to him, but man, it would have won over a lot more than he did. He just didn't know how to play that game.
I think also sometimes he just had this way of saying things that any other politician could have said, but when he said it, there's something about the way he would frame things. Like you could almost, like Obama would say it, and the best is Clinton ever was the best at this. Like, because Clinton could say almost anything in his own way, and it somehow he was like just made you feel okay about it. There's something about Trump where I would say it's almost like the unfunny comic. Like he'll say something that wasn't really that bad, but the way he says it is something about how he frames things and communicates that really pisses people off.
It pisses me off.
It just really pisses people. And you know what? And I'm about as socially liberal as you can get, and I'm fiscally conservative. That's me. It's like many people are like that. And I was like, why you do, like, why? Like, why? Like, stop. Like, you know, and because when you like certain policies and then you see that, it was almost like self-destructive.
Well, it comes from his character, and that's, I'm sorry I keep repeating my last book, but I had a chapter on narcissism, right?
Let's talk about that. That book was strategy, right? You said?
The Laws of Human Nature.
The Laws of Human Nature.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had the second chapter is about narcissism, and the idea is that we're all narcissists. It's our nature. We all have degrees of self-absorption.
Nothing terrible about being a narcissist. There's healthy and unhealthy levels.
There are healthy narcissists out there. People who are high-achieving executives or artists are generally narcissists, but they put their narcissism into their work, into producing things as opposed to hurting people and as opposed to just getting attention, right? But the other thing in that book is character. It kind of determines who you are, right? And we all come with a character that's set from our early childhood, from our parents, from our genetics, etc. And if we don't know how to control that, if we're not masters of these things in ourselves that are very deeply ingrained in who we are and give us patterns of behavior, then we can't control what happens to us. We can't control our circumstances. And he is a slave to his narcissism. He needs constant attention. He needs to rile people up. But what comes with that is he's not aware of how other people are reacting, how other people are feeling. You were talking about people who think that they're saying something and it has this effect, but it doesn't. He's like that. He thinks he's having this effect, and for his base it worked, but for 67% or 60% of the American public, it has the opposite effect on them. The other thing is he doesn't have any self-deprecating humor. He has no kind of distance from himself where he can step back and he make a joke at his own expense, which is a very, very powerful quality, very important quality for people to possess in this world. And we like it in leaders, right? We like the fact that you're so strong and secure.
You could say how imperfect you are, and yet it's still okay, right?
Yeah. And he can't do that because he's so insecure and so needs that narcissistic supply that he always has to do the immediate thing. He's also a creature of immediacy. He's never learned to discipline or master himself. It makes me wonder how he ever got ahead in business.
All right, so I want to tell you guys about one of my favorite parts of every morning, and that's when I have my Athletic Greens. Listen, Athletic Greens is my absolute favorite nutritional supplement. Gives me an extra boost for the day. If you know anything about me, then you know that personal performance is a very high priority for me. One scoop of Athletic Greens, I get that feeling, that tingling sensation when your brain and your body are really firing off together perfectly. And that's when I know I'm ready to go out and close at the highest level possible as a salesperson, as an entrepreneur, as a businessman. Make sense? So whether you're training for a marathon, you're trying to lose a few pounds, or you want to elevate your energy and your focus, Athletic Greens is for you. And if your results are anything like mine, I can virtually guarantee you'll have that extra edge in performance that sets you apart. And here's the deal. Right now, Athletic Greens is offering a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs for the Wolf Den listeners. You'll basically never have to buy vitamin D again. Simply visit athleticgreens.com/bonus to get started with this limited time offer. Again, simply visit athleticgreens.com/bonus and get your free year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs.